Today's topic is Bartenders of Reddit. What's that one fucked up story you can't stop thinking? Busy, full bar. 10 p.m. and picking up. Girl walks up to an open spot at the bar, obviously just arrived and carded by security. Puts her ID away and gets out her credit card. She orders a pitcher of the cheapest beer I have. Doesn't care what it is, doesn't want a tab. Just pays and tips. I ask her how many glasses she wants, she says, none. Weird, she just got here, so I know she doesn't have glassware yet. Is she just going to drink from the pitcher? Got my answer pretty quickly. She calmly put her purse back together and over her shoulder, picked up the pitcher, walked behind AM/F couple sitting about 10 feet down the bar, and poured the entire pitcher of cheap beer on the man's head. Called him a cheating asshole and walked out. Calm, composed, and savage. Sunday closing shift, a huge family party is the last table in the place. 2 servers and me, they bring the bill and whoever organized the dinner apparently drops on the family that they are all going Dutch. It begins as an argument about money and turns into a brawl. We were a seafood restaurant bar and someone took a plastic fish off the wall and used it as a weapon. They finally paid the bill with like 8 cards, luckily it was an automatic tip on the bill. I used to bartend at a wedding venue and during the reception of an afternoon wedding the groom kept coming up and buying rounds of drinks, but never with the bride. He was tipping appropriately, but as he got drunker he was being more and more generous, telling me to keep the change as he paid with $50s and eventually hundreds of dollars. Come to find out he was grabbing cash out of cards. I eventually cut him off, but I have to imagine he kept getting fed drinks. As he was carried out, I finally got my first glimpse of the very pregnant and equally upset bride. I offered to give her back the close to $500 I had been tipped by him alone, but she very graciously told me to keep it and said not to worry about it and he's going to pay for it for a long time. I was a tour guide at a distillery. After the tour, I'd go back to bartending. One guy on my tour came up to the bar and immediately said, "I can tell you're on the spectrum because I also have autism," very casually. I have never been tested for it and my doctors have never even hinted about it. That was like a year ago and I still think about it. I wasn't offended and I understand autism, it was just shocking. I have bartender part-time for years. I had a server who had gotten off after the kitchen closed and had a few too many shift drinks. After the bar closed, she said that she was going to go into the kitchen to make something to eat. No big deal, we do this all of the time. After a few minutes I hear screaming and dash to the kitchen. She had knelt down to turn on one of the fryers, and in her drunken stupor, had instead turned the valve to drain the oil from the fryer. It proceeded to shoot out at her, covering her and the kitchen floor in used fryer oil. She had tried to turn it off, but slipped, so by the time I got to the kitchen she was swimming in a pool of oil. Thankfully it was cold or it would have been really bad. We made her climb into the dish pit, as the drain has a grease trap, and sprayed her off the best we could. We then wrapped her like a mummy in bar rags, and threw her into one of the security guard's cars for him to take her home. She still ruined the passenger seat of his car. It was awesome having to clean all of that up at like 3 a.m. after a super busy bar shift. Guy was on a Tinder date at my bar. The girl was actually a high school classmate of his, they hadn't spoken in years, but they knew each other. After 2 hours of drinks and food, he went to the bathroom leaving his phone/wallet/keys in his jacket pocket draped over the chair. She immediately found them and booked it out the door. She then stole his BMW and went on a shopping spree. And the schmuck at the bar. He lamented for an hour that, it must have been an emergency, she's going to come back, before I forced him to call the cops and file a report because at that point, he couldn't pay his $200 tab either. I often think about him 5 years later. I have quite a few fucked up ones, but I like this goofy one the best. A guy with a full-on permed pompadour comes up to the bar with a grease-stained brown paper bag and said that the food he picked up wasn't cooked properly and he wants a refund. I look in the bag and know it's not from our place, and I tell him he must be mistaken. He tells me he is a police officer and I should really reconsider. The thing is, I worked at a cop bar. It was owned by a cop family, and detectives and off-duty police hung out there often. One of the detectives, who is a main character in less funny stories, turns to the guy and says, "Oh yeah, which precinct?" as he casually pulls aside his jacket so his badge is visible. Pompadour's eyes widen and he immediately starts running towards the door just as two more DTs are walking in. The only way I can describe what happens next is if you can imagine a Charlie Chaplin-esque Keystone Cops routine. 3 detectives chasing this guy around the bar who is tipping over tables, jumping over them, sliding under them. The works. They finally get a hold of him and he yells out, "I am undercover," as they are dragging him out. 2 of us working, watched this couple walk up to the other bartender. The person ordering was phenomenally hot. The partner is giving the bartender a sign to cut them off with a silent wave to the throat. Bartender is enamored with phenomenally beautiful customer and sees it as an opportunity to hit on them. Bartender tells their partner, it's not their place to determine what's best for them, says you seem controlling and pretty insecure. Has a laugh with the hottest and takes a shot with them. 2 seconds later. It looked like Mexican food and corn dogs, and it was all over the bar and the bartender, it was everywhere. It was an absolute disaster. Not a bartender, but I'll share this story. A good friend was a cocktail waitress at a casino on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. She lost count of the amount of people that wore diapers so they wouldn't have to get up from the table and or slot machines. She said towards the end, she was immune to the urine smell, but seeing a grown man sitting in his own poop because his diaper overflowed broke her, and she quit on the spot. Busy Friday night, hour-long wait at the front for a table and every seat was taken at the bar. 2 seats were occupied by a local NFL player, who had just retired, and his buddy. Once someone noticed him, it was on. Person after person went up asking for an autograph. We tried to get people to leave him alone, but it was no use. Eventually, he just got up and left. The other bartender went chasing after him in the parking lot. "Mr. NFL player. Mr. NFL player. You didn't pay your tab." He turned around and calmly said, "Check under my dinner plate." She went back in, clears his plate and saw a crisp $100 bill. He left $100 on a $35 tab. This happened when I was a bartender in my younger days, but I will never forget it. Watched some episodes of America's Most Wanted before going into the bar for my evening shift. It's Friday evening and the joint is jumping. It's non-stop busy, and as I move on to my next customer, all of a sudden I'm looking into the eyes of the murderer I had seen on TV earlier that night. I smile, take his order, and serve it up. I notify my manager, and continue serving up drinks for the rest of the night. I only saw him that one time, and he ends up getting arrested in the early morning hours at the Notel Motel just down the street. What are the odds? I worked in a bar and was training the new start. I was telling her about the man who was harassing me the following weekend. I can usually handle myself, but this man wouldn't stop trying to touch me. I had to get security to have a word, and he finally stopped. Next thing, the man I was talking about started walking towards, and I was about to say, "Oh, here we go," and the girl says, "Hi Dad." I turned and walked away, not telling this girl that her married dad was a drunken pervert. Was working a hotel bar in Newcastle one summer. The owners were a husband/wife team, pretty dysfunctional if you ask me. Anyway, a football team were staying at the hotel ahead of a Newcastle game which got everyone pretty excited, some of the players were a little famous. During a busy dinner service for the team, they had their own function room. One of the players got up and asked me where the toilets were. I told him, and thought nothing of it until I saw him take a wrong turn. I started pursuing him, but stopped when I saw him walk into the office with the owner's wife. I had to walk past the door for my own curiosity, and let's just say I heard some funny noises. They were back 10 minutes later. Pretty tame, but I worked in a bar that mostly served university students, so not exactly expert drinkers. One night it's pretty packed and I'm busy making some cocktail that involved grenadine. Out of the corner of my eye, I see two girls swipe the bottle off the bar and take off for the bathrooms. I look at my coworker and say, "You wanna bet they think there's alcohol in that?" A few minutes later they both come out with sticky red rings around their mouths and run off into the night. Saturday night, busy as heck back in 2014. Group of hen girls came in. I poured out 6 shots of white sambuca. One of the girls swallowed her shot and then spat into the glass afterwards. A girl comes up all party, white girl wasted, takes the shot glass and slams back the shot of spit. She realized what it was and spat it back into the glass. She looked around to see if anybody noticed and we clocked eyes. I think I was the only person who saw. Guy comes into the bar. I've seen him before. He's super friendly and tells many stories of his adventures scuba diving and snorkeling. We discussed the show, Descending, and how cool many of the locations are, and the fact that I can never scuba dive but enjoy snorkeling with my wife as often as we can. What adventure are you off to now? I'm heading all over the place, spending my kids' inheritance at their insistence. That's cool of them, sounds like you'll have a great time. I better, it's my last trip. I'm dying of cancer and need to see as many of these places as I can before I kick it. You have a great trip, man. Go as far as you can, for as long as you can. Thanks. It's been nice knowing you. And I never saw him again.